I am really excited about this message today, and I want to share some songs that are written around it. Could I have a little bit of this in my monitor too, please? Tomorrow, of course, is Martin Luther King Day and this nonviolent message. And this was a song, you know, when I moved away from Florida, I moved to Tennessee. I became very involved in this nonviolent movement, and it was changed. It changed me. And there's a beautiful quote that is a perfect way to kind of just pulls it all together, and it was by Rumi. You may have heard this. He says, out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. So this is our introduction to nonviolence, and this song is called Open Your Heart. Open your heart, I will meet you out beyond fields of right and wrong, holding a place where trust can greet you, and you are known. Open your heart, I'll receive it. Happiness, anger, joy or pain, all of you met with no resistance, like the earth greets the rain. There's no need to change or hide your feelings in sacred space. Here you are met with understanding and love's embrace. Open your heart, your needs matter. Allow me the honor to walk in your shoes, here where it's safe to feel the fullness of your heart's truth. There's no need to change or hide your feelings. It's sacred space. Here let the weight like fog be lifted. We're gifted grace. Open your heart, it's true and perfect. Cracks in the clouds, let light shine through. Here every misstep's just part of the journey to you, loving you. Sweet the release for your courage. Solid oaks grow in dirt and sky tears. All of your reaching broken branches are welcome here. All of you is welcome here. Thank you. Thank you. So I just have to check in because my heart is so full looking out. And I know the ones of you who are new are just looking like, what? I'm seeing so many familiar faces, and I'm so moved. The 8 years here were some of the best of my life. And I know the hearts of the people that are here today, and for those of you that I don't know yet, I know because you are all together that you're sharing that same loving energy. So I just want to thank you for coming. I never felt called to be a minister. I don't know why I'm here. But sometimes you find something that is so magnificent. You just have to share it. And what I found in Nonviolence was such a perfect puzzle piece fit for unity principles and for the Center for Spiritual Living, where I've been also working in the last many years. Because a lot of the times we can move straight to prayer without really having clarity on some of the details. And this provided some skills for me. So my intention today is I want to share my agenda. I actually am going to do things a little differently than you normally would hear. I don't want to just talk at you. I want to invite you to have an experience that you can take with you. And the best way I know how to do that is to invite you to share as well. So there are going to be 2 spaces, y'all, where you share. So I hope you're sitting next to someone you like. Because if you don't, you're going to like them after this. So, all right. So let's see. I have a lot of gratitude. I also want to say that this title, From Judgment to Transformation. So I wear this little butterfly every day because transformation has been my journey. And I know some of you, I won't be getting into details about my own journey, but I had a health crisis that really brought me pretty close to the end. And I'm just, my neurologist says I'm a miracle. So I want you to know that that would be a story for another day. But I know I'm a miracle because I use these principles and this works. And it's about connecting to life. So what I'd like to share, so from judgment to transformation, crossing the bridge through nonviolence. So when you hear the word nonviolence, who do you think of? Right? And why? I mean, holy cow. Look at the remarkable things they did. And I think about our unity principles, standing for oneness and understanding that everything that I do will come back to me. What better example do we have than these 2? I mean, there are many. Jesus, our teacher, of course, but I'm going to stay fairly current because it helps me. So Martin Luther King talked about redemption. And this is particularly moving for me, being in Nashville right now, knowing that he was so committed to nonviolence that people would sit at those cafes and be beaten out of the hatred and ignorance of those who did not understand. And yet he persevered. And for everything that happened in that movement, here we are. We still have a long way to go. But I'll tell you, I'm grateful to be back here in Orlando. Things, it's a little more south in the north. So, and I want to say too, for Gandhi, I heard this. I love you. My singers are here. I heard this this said, and I couldn't have said it in a better way. If you understood the power of an empire, and you think about the power of the British Empire that held power with their colonies for centuries, and that man right there, you're right, he was able to free an entire nation from that power without ever lifting a sword. That's power, right? That's the kind of power we want to have, amen? Amen. So I want to talk about one more person that has made a tremendous commitment and impact in the nonviolence, and that is Marshall Rosenberg. Does anyone know who this man is? Oh, God, I was so lucky. Okay, this man here, Marshall Rosenberg, is the founder of the Center for Nonviolent Communication, of which I am almost a certified trainer now. I've been studying this. I could have got a PhD in less time. So he created this international organization, and it's in Arizona, but he really didn't want the organization. He just wanted the work. You know, it was like Jesus. He just wanted to do the work. He wasn't thinking about structures, but it had to be done. So Marshall has a story that's so remarkable. He was a Jew in the time, I think it was in the 60-something, 4, maybe 6, in Detroit. And at that time, there were Detroit riots going on, and there were incredible violence. I think 1,200 people died, roughly. And so Marshall Rosenberg knew that because of his name, he would go out and he would get beat up, he'd get bullied, he'd get hurt because of his name. So he was so baffled, he would come home, and his mother, who was completely invalid, she was not able to move, feed herself, eat, change herself, anything, use a toilet. He would watch as his uncle would come over and care for his mother. And his uncle would lovingly care for her, feed her and talk to her and change her. And he never, ever became violent or angry. And that incredible compassion that he witnessed led him to ask one question. Why do some people become violent and others choose compassion? It's a good question, yeah? I mean, who hasn't been angry? So what he did is he went on to become a therapist and study psychology, study with many, many greats, and he discovered that our entire structure of life in modern culture is designed to create authorities and obedience, and it's punitive. And because it's punitive, you're always going to have to do this thing or else. And it starts very young, you know? I mean, I can remember a few times in school, I got sent where I didn't want to be. And so this is what he discovered was as he learned more and he was working with all these clients, he'd say they weren't even getting better. They'd go back to their childhood, they'd do all these things, and no one was healing. And then he started to discover something. And he finally connected it with his uncle. And that was that there is life. There is a life energy, and we know it here. Amen? Let's have the slide. There is a life energy here. Now, we call it many things. We call it God. We call it divine power. He called it beloved divine energy. And he said, this life, we know this already, right? We know this intellectually. It's expressing through us. But he said, when you are really connecting with divine energy in someone else, it tends to happen when you're hearing what they feel and what they need. So let me pause, because that word need is kind of confusing. So we talk all day long. We talk. You talk, I respond, you know. You share an idea, I share an idea, and it's all this stuff. But to connect to the life of a person, what he discovered through his clients was that as he started to name what they were feeling and what they actually needed, they would feel seen, something shifted. And as Carl Rogers says, empathy, the experience of being seen and known and accepted exactly as you are, is the most transformative form of gift that you can give someone. So there's some beloved divine energy, right? So beloved divine energy is really easy to see when you can look at someone and they're in that. I mean, doesn't it just make you smile to like, I chose these pictures because it was so beautiful to me. But what we want to do is find that energy in the people that we judge. Not so easy, right? You can turn that one off. So I want to talk about violence because Marshall found that we know violence as physical harm. We know it as this thing. We know it as bullying. We know it as name calling. But he said, if violence is defined as something that harms you, then we can actually expand that definition. And it means, the obvious ones are discriminating, racial bias, criticizing. Criticizing is a form of violence, right? So what about this when we're judging others? You're right or you're wrong. You're wrong. Or speaking without listening. Because it's not holding care for you. Or reacting when I'm angry. Using political rhetoric. And being defensive. That was a big one for me. So when we label right and wrong, even though we innately feel right and wrong, when we label others as wrong, we are not able to see that divine energy in them. And the goal in nonviolence is to get somehow to where Jesus, Gandhi, King lived and find that capacity in us. Yes? If you could find it in you and know that you could actually experience understanding or even compassion instead of rage, would you choose it? All right. Because I want to share this experience, this story, this judgment. So I want to talk about judgment. The way this violence is perpetuated in not just the obvious places, which I can't even mention because it is so painful for me to think of the wars, Ukraine, Palestine, I mean, it's just unthinkable. But this violence is where there is a use of power and domination over someone else. It's when we don't hold consideration for what they think or feel or need. So how do we move out of this paradigm? This is pretty much what? Our corporations, our schools, our work, everything is pretty much set up that way, right? So we've got to find a way to become interdependent, become connected to that life, even inside of these structures, which will never change. So Marshall defined non-violence. He said this is an attempt to manifest a certain spirituality, and he used the word spirituality. And he said, we do it when we connect to life. We connect to the life in somebody. And we're really not listening to their words, but we're hearing what they feel and need. And that's not easy, y'all. Like someone's like, blah, 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 and you're like, I'm not going to listen to what you say. What are you feeling? And like, oh, I get it. You can actually get to this place. So he says, when we hold a respectful understanding of another person's experience, I say that again, a respectful understanding of another person's experience, regardless of who that is, that's empathy. And it's in empathy that we heal. So when we are connecting with life, we're like that surfer. Now, I like to say the surfer because of this. He said this, if you connect with life and you get connected to that person, it's like riding a wave. Are there any surfers or body surfers in the room? Because I know, yay, okay. Okay, good. There's three of us. Well, it's like a blissful thing, yeah? Is there something about it? I mean, my son would get up at 5 a.m. I had no idea. I was like, what? But it's bliss when you connect with the life in that person. On the other hand, if you don't connect and you're in judgment or whatever, you just wipe out. I think that's what they call it. There's a song about that. So this is, if we are going to connect with life, how do we do this when we're in judgment? Because this is ingrained from us from an early age. There's right, there's wrong. You do this, you don't do that, or you're going to get punished. So, Marshall clarified that we live in these universal human needs. Has anyone ever seen this wheel? Oh, I'm so excited. This is so exciting. Okay. So, you know how in Unity we say life expressing. This is kind of a little more clarity around. What does that mean, life expressing? It means life expresses through these human needs, and every human being needs this. It's not, I need you to do this, or I'm needy. It means love, freedom, power, competence, support, consideration, benevolence, respect, celebration, mourning. This is the experience of being human. Is there anyone here who doesn't need love? I think the Beatles said that one. So now the most beautiful thing, all needs are universal, and this is where we experience our oneness. And I didn't put a slide of this, but every action we take is in order to meet a human need. Every action we take is in order to meet a human need. So I also want to say, I realize I get very passionate and I get kind of intense. So take what you like and leave the rest. But I want to say, if you are open to reframing and just kind of staying a little open to this concept, you'll discover, like, for example, let's look at some of the needs wheel again. Some of the needs that we would meet by coming to church. Let's just call them out. What are the needs that you meet by coming to church? Community, absolutely. Anyone else? Authenticity, I can be me. Friendship, absolutely. More? Structure, and what else? Soul growth, Ron, you know it. It's that soul growth. Anything else? Transcendence. Yeah. Anything else? Belonging. Rest. Yeah. Connection, support. Yeah, our prayer chaplains offer support, y'all. You can tell I've been in the South, I'm sorry. So these are the needs expressing through us with every action we take. Coming to church is an action we take. So I want to take a moment and invite you, let's just take like 2 minutes, let's take 3 or 4 minutes, and I just want you to turn to the person you're with somebody close by to you, and just think about what needs are met for me by coming to church. You know, as a musician, sometimes for me it's like contribution or inspiration. All these needs and many more. So just take a look at the wheel and talk to your partner, and we'll take, I need to hold myself accountable. We'll just take like 3 or 4 minutes, okay? All right. So you all want to come on back? Does it make sense? You can kind of see, oh yeah, I knew this intuitively, but maybe I never really named it, right? So these beautiful needs, by the way, have a compass. So how do we know what our need is? It's so simple. We follow our feelings. And I don't know if you're like me, I was so disconnected from my feelings for so many decades, it took me a little work to actually know I had them. And so if I go, oh, I'm so excited because I'm going to be in community, right? Or, oh, I'm a little nervous because I really want to contribute. You see how that feeling kind of points to it, right? Okay, so let me go back. I want to say more about the feelings, but where did I put that? So, yeah. So when you, how do we know which need is alive? It's it's that feeling in us in whatever it's pointing to. And what happens then when we're judging? When we're judging, we get disconnected from life. When we're judging, this is what happens. When we're thinking someone's doing something they shouldn't do, and God knows this thought comes from me every day. I'm not claiming to be, this still comes up, this is my work. That person shouldn't be doing that. I can go into prayer. I can try to pray to change them. You know how that is, not very helpful. Or we can practice unity prayers, change me. Bless them, change me. Bless them, change me. So oftentimes this means I've got to live with this discomfort if I'm going to acknowledge my feeling. That's not always easy. But that's what judgment does. It puts us in a discomfort. So what is it, you know, how the people that need love are the hardest to love? Let's look at what that slide is. Here's the deal. This is the essence of this message right here. When we're judging someone, we have an experience of vulnerability in here, me. It's not about them. I have a need that's not being met. And it's not about them. Now, that may sound like, yeah, right, but my brother, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. It's a life-serving intention for me to get this uncomfortable feeling and to feel this vulnerability. So let me share an example. Can you think of a time when you received a phone call and your need was for connection with somebody and you were overjoyed? You had that? Like, ah! All right. What about when you receive a phone call and you're really needing space? Okay. Is it about that person calling? No, I needed space. Another time I needed connection. Here's another example. I come to church. I come to church because I love the belonging. But other times I come to church because I'm grieving and I need to feel connection and safety. I need faith. The need is different. The feeling will lead to it. Another one is locked doors. Okay, so here's a perfect example. We lock our doors at night. We do this for safety. How does that make you feel? At ease, yes? But what happens when you go home and you're locked out? What's the need? To get in. Well, that's the strategy, and the need is to rest at home. Now, here's something really important. The strategy to meet our needs are not the needs. So if I am angry at someone for judging me, I may have strategies for trying to make that, we have to have a conversation, or I have to cut him off. That's a strategy. What's the need? Yeah, maybe I want to be loved or to be seen and known as I am or be accepted. Do you see how this is such a, it's so simple and it's so reframing. So what I want to do too, I want to invite y'all to think of, so what the thing that happens is not the cause of my feelings. The thing that happens stimulates whatever need I'm longing for. And maybe it feels unmet or met, right? Does that make sense? So let's do another little, go back to the need slide. I want to remember, when we're judging someone, we're in pain. So usually the first thing that we need when we're in pain is what? Comfort, love, understanding, empathy. Empathy is a respectful understanding of my experience, whether I'm right or wrong or not, right? Compassion. So sometimes I just need to be heard. Just blah, 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 So, and it doesn't, I don't have to, if I just say, I have a need to be heard, will you just listen? Maybe I don't even, maybe it's when I'm heard, then I'm ready to pray. Oh, now I feel seen. Now I'm ready for the solution. So our needs are shifting all the time when we're trying to meet these needs. I want you to think about, just for a moment, you probably won't get this invitation very much in church, but I want you to think about a frustration. You know? Think about a frustration. And I want to invite you for a moment just to see if you can look up at the wheel. And I want to go back into our little breakouts for just a couple minutes, 2 minutes each. And see if you can share with your buddy. Now, don't get into the story. Now, look. I've done this where people spent all 4 or 5 minutes talking about that problem and then some. And then I'm like, okay, come on back. And they're still talking about the problem. Okay, so here's the invitation. Think about some little thing that happened and say it in one sentence as though you were a video camera. So you're not going to say, he betrayed me or he's ignoring me. You're going to say, I made 3 calls and I haven't heard back. You get the difference? And if you can put this in one sentence, all the better. So take that one little frustration, and the other invitation is, let's not do like the big ones, the in-laws and the family from 50 years ago. And let's just do some small thing. If you have a small irritation from the last few days, like just 2 or 3 days. And think of that frustration. And I want you to just turn to your partner. And if you are up for this, you can say, this thing happened, and I felt blank. All right? And I need blank. And then partner, you're just going to listen. If anything, just reflect back that need. Or maybe even reflect back if you think, was it also this? If you feel maybe it was also this, okay? So let's just take like 2-3 minutes per person, and then I'll tell you when to switch. All right? This frustration happened. I felt this. And what I really need is this. And partner, remember to reflect that need. Okay. Okay, if you haven't switched, please switch. All right, so let's wrap up. So I know this is Sunday service and it's not a workshop, but I'm just kind of curious. How was that? Do you kind of, did anything shift? Did anyone experience a shift? Like, oh yeah, okay, over here? So the intention here is we're going to live nonviolence. We got to take accountability for our stuff, right? We have to do it. And we know this intellectually. But how in the world do we do it when we're in a violent world? And it starts with these simple things. So I'm going to close this because I have a song I want to lead to. Unity principles remind us that we are one, and we can use denial and affirmations. We are shared humanity. And my intention is to live in this energy with the awareness of my needs so that I am resourced when times get rough. If I'm aware of my needs, I can actually listen beyond what someone's saying. That's what Marshall used to say. He says, never listen to what someone's saying, just listen to their feelings and needs. If you can name that or see that or hear that or take a pause or whatever you have to do, that's the beginning of nonviolence. Because it just starts right here. So my invitation to you is for one day, tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day. And it's a very important day, and it's also Inauguration Day. So I know that probably leaves some of you joyful, some of you not so much. So here's my invitation. My invitation to you is this for one day, just for 24 hours. Practice this process. When you get stimulated, something comes up, just say, okay, just what happened? What was the video camera? Not my story about it. What am I feeling? What is my need? Like we do in prayer, we're going to direct our attention to the need instead of directing our attention stuck in the feeling or attention stuck in the problem. I direct my attention to the need, and I call a chaplain if necessary. And bring that home and into my heart and see what happens for one day. I'll just practice. That's my invitation. Anybody up for it? Yeah? Okay. So I want to just end by saying that when we focus on clarifying what we observe, feel, and need, rather than diagnosing, judging as right or wrong, we discover the depth of our own compassion. This is what Marshall said, our shared humanity. Our survival as a species depends on our ability to recognize our well-being and the well-being of others are one and the same. What's it like when we live from love? This song is called Unafraid. And it was written because when I was most afraid a few years ago, after some pretty scary things, I realized that that was just pointing me to this need for love. And that need for love was available no matter what. I'm unafraid to live, I'm unafraid to die. To love with all my heart, even when it makes me cry. I'm learning to surrender what I cannot change, so I can face each new day unafraid. I'm unafraid when I live from love. I'm unafraid when I give from love. I'm unafraid and it fills my cup when I live from love. Unafraid when I live from love. I'm unafraid when I give from love. Unafraid and it fills my cup when I live from love. I'm unafraid of truth. It leads to understanding. I'm unafraid of sorrow. It keeps my heart expanding. My life's a patchwork quilt of all the memories made. Oh, wrapped inside it, I feel unafraid. Ooh, yeah. Unafraid when I live from love. Unafraid when I give from love. Unafraid it fills my cup when I live from love. Do you want to sing it? Unafraid when I live from love. Unafraid when I give from love. Unafraid and it fills my cup when I live from love. We trust what our heart tells us or what other people say, but either way regret catches up to us one day. But every risk I took and every price I paid was a step to where I'm standing unafraid when I live from love, unafraid when I give from love, unafraid and it fills my cup when I live from love, unafraid when I live from love, unafraid when I give from love, unafraid and it fills my cup when I live from love. I have surrendered, and heaven knows I've prayed. So